Building on the future, cause I can't change my past. Positive vibes for positive lives. She just giving you that truth and shifting your mind. It's more mental than you realize. It's up to you to take control, cause this world is cold and negativity gon' take its toll. Now we've been told any day could be your last. I'm embracing every moment and I cherish every laugh, every smile, every hug, every kiss, every touch, every person in my life that I care about and love. But wait, maybe I'm getting too emotional. That's exactly what they say you ain't supposed to do. Suppress your feelings, never talk about your pain. Can't appreciate the sun without acknowledging it rains, right? That's right. So this a moment of clarity. And make sure you always protect your energy. You stay focused and your life gon' be lit. And you are now rocking with Celeste the Therapist. Let's go.
All right. Hey, beautiful people. So if you have not been in this podcast before, my name is Celeste. I'm a therapist from Boston. I get to come on and talk to some amazing people who are doing things to empower other people. And I'm going to have my guest introduce herself to you all.
Hello, all. My name is Lafaya Mitchell. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I'm super excited to be here with Miss Celeste. I can't wait for her to get a chance to ask me some of the questions and give you guys some of the answers that you're looking for.
And so you're an LMFT. So how is it being a therapist in the middle of the pandemic? How has that been for you?
Okay, so for me, it really, things have changed in that I'm not doing as many in-person visits. So everything is by Zoom. I would have to say that while I think a lot of people kind of lost a lot of business, kind of gained a lot more business. So it's very different, I think, for therapists out there because COVID has impacted people so much as far as mental health is concerned. Okay.
Now, one of the things, so we're going to talk about the Lafaya way, but before we do that, I kind of want people to know who you are, with not just you being a therapist, but kind of the work you do. Sometimes people assume that like, oh my gosh, you're so great. Like, life must have been just like great for you to be able to do all these things. So I would love to hear a little bit about you and your upbringing, where you were born and what was life like for you growing up.
Okay. I was born in Sacramento, California, and I grew up in a neighborhood that people in Sacramento know very well called Del Paso Heights. It's a very poor neighborhood, lots of crime, just not the greatest things. And so I would have to say that I was one of those intergenerational trauma kids, kind of the trauma just continues to go, it just becomes a generational thing where your parents had certain experiences and then it kind of passes on to you until someone breaks the cycle. I like to call it cycle breaker.
And while you're in that, in Sacramento, in this kind of like trauma, it's not like you were recognizing it. This is your life, right? During this time growing up.
Definitely 100% my life. And you could not have told me when I was younger that I would be doing anything like being a therapist or even liking people enough to actually talk to them instead of beating them down. Like that part.
Okay, I didn't think, I never grew up and said I wanted to be a therapist either, but I'm glad you said that. For my people with the stigma, the mental health, they can see it's always room for change.
Right. Like for real. And this is some dramatic change because if you call them some of the family, they will tell you that Lafaya was off the hook when she was younger.
Oh, thank you for that part. Okay, keep going.
But I had a past that it wasn't lovely. So there's lots of things, lots of abuse. Just all the things that you can list on the bad experiences. Those were probably mine. But as I got older, I was always a little bit different. Like there was something about me as far as school is concerned. Like I cared. Like no matter what else was going on, I had to get A's. Like it was almost like I had to represent.
So do you think that was part of your coping mechanism? School, was that one thing you had control over?
Yeah, you know what? That's I never thought of it that way, but yes, that was one thing that I had control over, and I knew I was a smart little girl. Like I always knew it, and I never wanted for other people to do better than me. So it was like almost a competitive that created a situation where it was just like, okay, you're not going to get a better grade than me because you're not smarter than me. Like that was kind of my attitude.
Yeah. Wow.
While I'm beating people up though. So I'm a big bully. Good A's. It made no sense.
I tell people all the time is, when we look back at our lives, there's different ways that may have gotten us through some situations. And when, some hard and harmful ways are obviously like drugs and alcohol, but some ways that people may miss is like school. Sometimes school is that place that's consistent and that, if you do this, you get this, get this grade. And so it sounds like for you, that's what happened. And something inside of you, like you felt like there was more for you, obviously, or you wouldn't be getting those A's.
Yeah, no, it's always been there. And now drugs, for me personally, I was always going to go the opposite side to that because I grew up during the whole crack era. So I had zero interest in looking like, seeming like, acting like any of those folks that I saw. So that motivated me to try to go in the opposite direction.
Okay, that makes sense. Now you're in school. You obviously graduate. Do you do well as far as your GPA in high school?
Well, yes. In high school, it was a little bit different when I was younger because I would cut half the time. So I would go either first through third period or fourth through sixth period.
Wow.
And I played on the basketball team. And because I was so good, and I would hardly go to practices, because I was so good, people would yell at the coach to put me in the game anyway during the games. So I got a lot of room. I'm not saying this was right. I was wrong. But I was bad when I was younger. So, as a teenager, I forgot to throw in that I actually, had a kid as a teenager. So I kind of did that typical, I don't want to say typical, but that thing that a lot of the poor girls do. And I ended up pregnant at age 16. And my sister was pregnant at age 15. So, and we were only 10 months apart. So, but I ended up pregnant and I was still going through school. I never missed a day of school, had my son in the summer and kept it moving right into the next school year.
Oh, wow. So did you have people that was supporting you during this time or how was that for you?
It's always been me, my mom, and my sister. So we've always been taking care of each other. And my mom was there and she was just like, she was like the ultimate grandma. So she had us. She was like, when you need to go to school. I have the kids. Get back home and take care of your kids. So I ain't gonna keep them all day. Yeah, she was one of those.
Oh, so you had to have some responsibility too.
Oh yeah. No, she wasn't one of those that took them as her own. And actually, I wouldn't have allowed that. It was just you need to take care of your business when you're in school. Taking care of your business. I got you. That was pretty much how it was.
Okay, so now you have a child and you graduate. You managed to graduate, which is not pretty common for someone that has a baby at 16. Is that fair to say?
It's very fair to say, but I was never going anywhere. That's just like I said, personality wise, I was probably still pregnant, up to 5 months pregnant, still trying to play basketball. Like I was kind of crazy.
Right. So you was determined though. It's like you wanted something different. You was determined.
Yeah. When I had my son, that's who changed my life. So when I had him, I looked at him and I decided you will never grow up like I did. Because like I said, we have a kind of a bad past. You will never grow up like I did. Now, I started out with him all wrong because I had no other way. I had no modeling for how to behave. But when I did start college, which college was my hustle. That's the interesting part is back then, if you were on welfare, then you could get money for going to school. So they'll pay for they'll only pay because I went to the junior college. They don't only pay for your school, but they'll give you extra money for going to school. So I figured out every piece of hustle, wrote for scholarships, got all kinds of money going to school.
You figured out how to get the scholarships and all that stuff on your own. Oh, wow. That's impressive. So you're doing all this and you're figuring out how to manage all of it, but mentally, what's happening with you? Like, how are you managing yourself mentally while you're doing this? Because it feels like you're just, all I'm hearing is go, 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 go. Like,
yeah, that's pretty much me. So very determined to make sure that my life was different, and mentally, I really didn't have a lot of room to focus on a lot other than that. But I did have my own issues. I had my own issues with extreme anxiety, depression, all the, like I said, all the typical for those who have had, very difficult past, whether they're actually acknowledging it or not, that's another story. But, and I wasn't even acknowledging it as that. It's just I felt a certain kind of way. I'm always going off. I'm always, doing certain things until I got to the end of that. I got tired of being that way. And I knew that I did not want my son to grow up watching that. So.
What made you tired of it? Because you said I got to the end where I got tired of it. What did that look or feel like for you?
I think when my son was 2 years old and he took his little baby chair that we had, little plastic chairs, and he threw it against the wall and he cussed, yelling, because he learned that from me because I had such bad temper. I think that's when I got to the end of it. I was like, it was like, oh my goodness. I said he wasn't going to be raised like me, and I'm clearly raising him just like me. Wow. So after that, I started trying to figure it out.
It shows how, because you seem like you use more parts of your brain than the average person. Like, you seem really intelligent, because what a lot of us say that we don't want to do like our parents, but then in some way we kind of mimic some of the behaviors because we're not aware. For you to be that much aware at that young of an age, that's pretty impressive to be able to make that connection without, you're not in therapy and nothing during that time, right?
No, we didn't believe in therapy. It was like, you got a problem, go to church. You need some Jesus.
She ain't lying. That's the way it was back in the day. Oh my God. Wait, so now you decided you wanted to change. And what did change look like for Lafaya? Because now you come from extreme.
I know, so change for me, and I feel like there's a lot of, I'm not trying to turn this into a super religious thing, but I feel like there's a lot of divine intervention in all this, personally, because it was like, I didn't know how to change. Like, my temper was so bad, like, I'll be blackout mad. Like, I did a lot of stuff that didn't make good sense. And so it was just one day I was going to go do something that was not good, because I did a lot of not good things. And it was weird. It was like I was driving my car and I had a literal crossroads moment where there was just this thing that went through me. You don't want to do that. And I was like, well, yes, I do. Arguing with myself, going up the street because I was crazy. And so, but yeah, yes, I do. Then what else am I going to do? And it kind of led me to, because I couldn't think of anything else to do because I needed to go act out. But it led me to my grandma's house, who kind of sat me, and I came to her house and I was mad. And I was like, we called her Mama. So I was like, Mama, I'm getting ready to go do some bad stuff. And something told me that I didn't want to do it. And I don't know how not to do it. So I'm here, basically. That was and I was mad, and she basically said, come in, baby. And she sat me down and she read Psalms 23 to me. And all I know is everything in me went calm. I felt sleepy. I laid down and I woke up. I woke up different, not all the way different, but very different from what I had ever been, because my mind, I believe that my mind went quiet. When I say my mind went quiet, I mean that I used to have so many thoughts in my head that I couldn't get a clear one out, which is why I would always act out. And so, but after this, my mind was quiet, where it was just one thought in there at a time instead of a bunch all the time. And then I was able to slowly but surely stop acting out.
While we're on this part right here, because there's a lot of people that are struggling with, and it's not, I think everybody finds clarity in different ways. And even though we kind of laughed about the idea of, like, they said, just pray about it. Like, I do think there's support in spiritual, like, wellness in regards to, like, some of the religious practices. But I also believe that, unfortunately, in some of our histories, that was the only thing that was used. And then if it's not working, you think you're not doing it good enough. Right. So for people that, like, have, like, all of these thoughts going on in their head, that, over and over again, and I hear this a lot, what would you say to them, to give them some encouragement to help kind of quiet some of the noise and get some clarity in their mind?
Okay, so this is some advice that I give all the time, because, my work is with, kids. Moderate to severe is my area. I don't really have a lot of interest in mild cases. Other people can deal with that. And it's because I have a special thing in working with the severe. So when there's voices in the head, even voices telling them to do bad things, and even psychosis has been working with kids and some of that. And what I usually tell them is start to treat the thoughts like you would a person who's telling you to do something to hurt yourself. Because see, usually you have these acting out, stubborn, all this stuff. They don't know how to properly channel that stubborn, but usually they're very strong-willed. What I do is I work with them on learning how to take the strong will and now use it to actually go against the stuff that's working against you, because you don't like being like this.
I like that. So more so leaning into it as opposed to like running away from it. Like
running away doesn't work anyway.
I know.
So yes, lean into it. You're a fighter anyway. Stop fighting everything outside yourself and start understanding that the fight is really within.
I love that. Yes, that's good. Okay, that's good advice. So now that happened. So that was kind of your turning point, like after leaving your grandmother's house. And you decided that you was gonna like start changing. And what did change look like for Lafaya?
Oh man. Okay, so I had already looked kind of okay, because nobody in my family really went to college. So it's like, ooh, Lafaya doing some, she's doing big things, even though I'm still, right. And it wasn't that at all. The changes that started to happen were things started to get calmer for me. I started to create more peaceful moments on purpose. I started to lean into understanding that I have to create the peaceful moments. And if I don't, then my default setting is to go off. And so if I start practicing, and so I started making it a regular practice, and that's for whatever your peaceful moment is, people use that. But whatever it is, you make sure you create more. And when I'm having a bad moment, it's just natural. Not natural instincts is so interesting to me. Instinctually, I learned that I needed to get all of that stuff that was inside of me, that negative energy is just basically the way I started identifying things, up and out. Yeah. So I started being intentional with things. So now instead of just playing basketball just to go out there and compete and beat up on people, now I'm playing it and I'm using the exertion on my exhale to get all the negative energy up and out, and recognize being very intentional about that. And then doing things like writing. People talk about journaling and that kind of stuff, and doing things like going in my car, turning the music up real loud and screaming it all out if I need to, whatever it took to be able to get that negative energy up and out. I was just trying to keep my space clear as much as possible.
I love that. And what Lafaya is saying, there's no right or wrong way to do this. And I think that, there's a lot of unconventional ways that doesn't require medicine that nobody really talks about, which is nice to hear that there's some things that, because some people don't have access to certain type of modalities, and to know like I can like put my music on and like scream, or I can just like play basketball. Like some people will be doing some of the things but not recognizing that it's a coping strategy. And then when they're struggling, they don't know like, oh, I have some coping strategies I can tap into, but I never really thought about it in that way because nobody really talks about it that way.
Yep. Yeah, and it's good because it's good to know that there are other things that you can do that feel within your control, especially for some. And sometimes medication is just a really tough idea. Like for me, they tried to medicate me. I couldn't do it because I came from that drug era where I was like, I turn them into a prescription, right? Like I'm still young and dumb, so I don't understand a lot of things like. Sometimes with the medication and such, it just depends on what it is you're dealing with. Then what I tell people is it takes the edge off. It doesn't fix it for you, but it takes the edge off enough for you. If you implement the proper strategies, then you can have a new way of doing things. And if you feel like you can do that without that taking the extra edge off and just understanding how to implement the strategies, let's go for that.
And even with medicine, it's not like you still need those strategies,
Right.
And I think that's the thing that's the misconception that unfortunately people have. So it's nice to hear you kind of talk about these different things that you were able to utilize to help. And I know that there are people that are listening now that are going to really start to have some like connections made for themselves, which is good.
Yes.
So now you're making these connections, and then when do you decide you want to go to school to get your master's and do this work?
Girl, I was always going to school. I never stopped. I went up from high school. I went straight into junior college. That's why I said I was going to school. I was just crazy person going to school.
So that was that was me. I was the same way. Like that was my coping mechanism. That's crazy.
Yeah, I never missed a beat with school. Like, especially when I figured out I can make money doing it because I was a hustler. So I was like, oh, I can make some money doing this. oh, okay, school it is. And then I get in there and write that hyper competitiveness. You're not smarter than I am, so I can't let you get better grades than me. So I was going to college getting straight A's, which made me qualify for more grants, more scholarships and all that, you know?
Wow. So when did the mental health part come into play? Like, when did you decide that track?
Okay, so I started school thinking, because I don't know how you grew up, but where I come from, when you make it into being like a nurse or something, you made it, right? Like,
nurse, doctor, lawyer,
nurses back then. That's the only thing I understood was, well, nurses seem to make a lot of money. I thought back then.
That's nurses, what I started with nursing. I was going to do nursing at first. That's what I thought.
Yes. I started out with nursing, but then I found out a couple of things. First of all, you have to touch bodily fluids, which I'm not doing because that's nasty. And the second, well, to me. And then secondly, they had this whole part of the program where people had to practice their injection, the shots on you. And after I found that out, I was like, oh yeah, oh no, probably we ain't doing, nursing is, we're gonna figure it out, right? I'm undeclared now. And then I took one Psych 101 class. And when I took that class, I was like, ooh, this stuff is interesting. Like, almost like I feel like I learned all these things about the mind. I'm like, feels like I'm learning all about me, right? Right now. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to take another one of those. Because you know how you have to take a general education and they have different categories for different things. But everything I could that have to do with psychology that I could fit into a category, I took the psychology classes. So then I decided, okay, you know what? How do I change to this major? Because I like, this is interesting. And in junior college, or what do they call it? I think it's junior college still. They call it's a different major. They say you have to call it social sciences or something like that.
Okay.
So I was like, yeah, give me that social sciences thing. And then when I finished there at the junior college and I was done with all of my minimum requirements, I knew transferring into the 4-year, which they don't pay as much money for, by the way, because school costs more. But I was very upset about that. But by then I was already invested, right? So then I was like, okay, I'm going into the psychology thing. And so then I was in there, the upper division courses in psychology there at the 4-year, which made me even more invested in it. I was like, okay, now this is really what I'm going to do. And while I was there, and now mind you, I didn't know the difference between an associate's, bachelor's, master's, doctor. I didn't know any of this stuff before I tried to do school at all. All I knew was when I went to the next level, what I found out was people who major in psychology don't do as well with just a bachelor's. So you have to get at least a master's degree to make real money. And I was always about money mindset. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I just got to do a couple more years of school to make more and do less work. I'm doing that, right? So then when I'm there, and like I said, I'm fully in it now. Then I move up and I decide, okay, I'm going to get the master's degree. How do you do that? Right. And I found this crazy program that you basically, it's like a 17-month intensive. So you're going to school from 5 to 10 every day, Monday through Friday, and then one Saturday a month to get through this program. And so I went through that program while working. I was working in daytime, and because by then my hustle had turned into a whole different thing. So I was working each job I went to. It was like always an advancement point each time I got a degree. That's just how it worked out for my life. Always an advancement point. And people would always see, like, they're like, oh my goodness, you really have an impact with these people you're working with. I've always been in mental health before I knew I was going to work in mental health. My first job was at a real job at 18. I was working in an in-care home for developmentally disabled adult male sex offenders. Yeah. Okay. And at 18 years old, about $120, I was in there running things. Like they never acted out when I was there, never had a problem, all this stuff. And the other staff didn't get the same results. And that's been that's what's been happening for me. I go to the severely emotionally disturbed, those homes, and the kids are acting out with all the staff except for me. And they're like, how are you doing this? We're going into the trainings, and I'm speaking up like, look, this is what you need to do with the kids. This is how you get the results. And so then somebody likes the stuff that I have to say. So then I'm invited over to become a trainer for another agency that was training us, stuff like that. So it's just been crazy.
Wow. So yeah, your track sounds a lot like mine. I started working at a shelter at 19, and then I went and got the associate psychology, blah blah blah, and I was like, oh. So it's so interesting how just through paying attention to what was working, you just kept going with it. And it sounds like your way works well. So one of the things that you talk about is the Lafaya way.
Yes.
And because clearly it works well, being 18, working with sex offenders and being able to kind of like run things and gain that much control at such a young age, it says a lot about the way that you operate. So can you share with my audience like what that is and what does that look like?
Okay, so first of all, let me tell everybody this part. Look, I have my entire life hated my name, okay, until now. I never embraced my name. I didn't understand why my parents called me such a weird name. When you say it separately, Lafaya, which is why I don't like the capital F, it means the ugly girl in Spanish. So I was like, what the heck? It doesn't spell the same, but it sounds the same. And so I'm like, what the heck? So I've always been embarrassed by my name, and nobody could ever pronounce it right. It's always Lafaya or Latoya or some weird thing that people were calling me. And so, but okay, and I'm talking about it's been a process to get here and developing something called the Lafaya way. I had zero desire to try to write or create a philosophy, any of that. I'm just living my life. But as I'm living my life and I go up and I'm moving into these different positions, people or parents are saying to me, colleagues are saying to me, oh my God, Lafaya, you have to share what it is you're doing with people because our kids are suffering. Like my kids, I get the kids that were failing treatment for 5-10 years before they get to me. And then all of a sudden, poof, change starts to happen quickly. And the parents are like, wait, what did you do to make them even be in there with you? I get the parents coming in like, well, they're probably not going to come in and see you, or they're probably not going to stay, or I have to be in there with them. And I get all that stuff, right? And when every single time that first assessment appointment, I always have to say, you know what, just bring them, right? Just bring them. We'll see. You'll get a chance to see something new. Well, that's what other people thought. Just bring them. And they bring them in, and they're looking from the waiting room. I've had parents looking like crazy because they didn't understand why it was their kid was coming back to the room with me who would refuse to go back with anybody else without their parents coming with. And they're like, wait, I'm not. And I'm like, I'm looking at the parent like, I need you to just go ahead and sit down, and right. And they're like, and the kid stays with me the whole time. Then they're still big eyes, shocked that they've been in there with me the whole time and didn't leave or break something or do something crazy. And so then all of a sudden they're like, what? And then the kids are ready to come back and see me. So then they're even more shocked and willing to come, right? And so, but with all that said, people said, you need to share what it is. And I said, I can't share this with people. This is just me. This is, for me, I just feel like, okay, just the way that I am just kind of commands a certain way of being, whether you think you're a bad kid or not, whether you can be gang affiliated, and I'm going to tell you what to do, and you're going to do it. Right. That's how, that's how I feel.
Has your grandmother ever told you that she recognized something special in you or anything like that growing up? Did it, oh, okay. That's so interesting.
No, I've just always been a little strange. I think, I don't know how else to say it. I've always been like the big mama. Like I'm the one that I was always that person that could tell other people and reason with somebody.
In friend groups, with family. Friend groups, family. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that nobody else could reason with. Like somebody, if they're in the middle of a fight and you touch them, then they fighting you. And I could come up to them and say something and it doesn't happen. Right. Stuff like that. Okay. It's always been my whole life. And so when people start to share this, tell me, hey, you need to share this. I'm like, I have no idea how to share this. For me personally, especially when I was younger, so that was like probably starting 20 years ago, people were saying this to me. And I'm like, oh, you need to write a book? I was like, I'm not writing a book. I didn't like English in school. I'm not doing any of that. And so for me, I'm thinking just have common sense. For me, it felt like common sense, right? And so then after many, many years though, and some maturity, because I needed to grow up, and some maturity, I had that last kid come in and the parents say, we've had her in treatment for 10 years and she's just suffering. No reason. They think she can't even process language at all, right? But she's perfectly, fine in that area if you don't create a lot of anxiety for her. And I said, okay. So, and life pinned me down too, because it was almost like I had to share what it is that I do. Not that I'm feeling bitter about it anymore, but I don't really like being in front of people like that. But I really sat down and said, okay, fine, write a book. I don't know how to write a book, but whatever, I'm gonna write a book. So I sit there, and once I kind of submitted to that calling, then everything just started flowing out, and it started coming. And there was this, and within a couple of 2 weeks, there was, and this is talking about awake at night, stop the car, pull over, have to write, because I'm like old school, so I'm writing everything like a dummy. Till my cousin told me, girl, get the computer. You're going to type it in the computer eventually anyway. Just start there. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And so, but until I had like this 60,000 word document that I was calling my book, right? And so, and then once I had that ready, then I was like, okay, well, this is not going to work. Like, I can't just give this to people. I need somebody to make it right. So then everything's lined up for me to meet the right people to now create the book. Now, the person that helped me create my book series, she just so happened to have raised 2 boys on the autism spectrum. And she looked at all that I wrote, and she said, oh my goodness, this information is like, this is life-changing. If I knew this stuff when my kids were younger, I'd still be married today. And she said, you are not going to give all of this information to overwhelmed parents at the same time. What I see here is mini books. And so she said, we're going to break this stuff down so that it's bite-sized, people could take it in and really learn it and all that. And she said, and to throw some extra stuff on top of it, and there's a philosophy in there, and all this stuff that you gave to me, there's a philosophy within that, and we need to tease it out. And I was like, first of all, I barely know how to define philosophy. 1, 2, no, I already wrote my stuff. Leave me alone, make it pretty. Let's go. Right. And no, but then through many tears, we teased out the philosophy, which ended up being called the Lafaya way. Why? Because it's completely and totally based in my life. That's why I didn't feel like I could share it. This is me sharing with you what I've done personally to make shifts for myself, and what worked and helped me, and then what worked and helped my daughter.
That's really good. I'm just gonna for people that are watching it on video, I want to share. If you go to her website, you will find these series that she's referring to, along with a lot of other information that she provides. Now, when you created this book, because I think my podcast, I end up not just like sharing other people's story, but in bits and pieces of their story, I like to pull out certain things. This book idea, like, you didn't think you wanted to do the book, but also once you start it, the idea starts to flow. Can you tell people about what that felt like? Because I feel like when there's something that's on our spirit that we're supposed to do, like we struggle with sleeping, we may get anxious or depressed. Like a lot of things happen when we don't do it. So it sounds like little bits and pieces, people were like, do this, and eventually you started, but then you couldn't stop. For people that may be like having something on their spirit that they want to do, is it easier? Is it better to do it than not do it? Or tell me about that process.
Okay, it is definitely better to do it than not do it, because it's like, and I know people have heard these references before, but it's like actually, giving birth to something. So if you don't push this thing out, you're going to be very uncomfortable.
Yes.
And that's what it was. When I say life pinned me down, I mean, I got some stuff that was brought to me that absolutely made no logical sense for the position that I was in life, certain things that I was just not allowed to have. And it was just like, okay, are you ready yet? Like, I got stepped on, like, I'm hard-headed. So it's like, you're going to do this. And seriously, for me to try to write a book, period, meant that I had to put myself out there. and every piece of anxiety that I have about, because we get that imposter syndrome when you come from a history where, where you come from, use of proper grammar is not a thing, and where, when you actually do try to do something, people are continuously telling you, oh, you think you're better than everybody else. And when and when you have that kind of stuff and you're trying to fight against that, and then you're in a professional world now with other people who are educated and who didn't grow up like you.
Right.
Well, all of a sudden you start to feel like, okay, am I going to be exposed for what I truly am, which is this poor little girl with no shoes, no clothes to wear, and am I going to be exposed for that little girl who felt so insignificant, when I was younger?
How did you, I could tell you kind of have moved past that significantly, but what did it take for you to like stand? Because in order for you to be where you are today and doing your own thing, I think you do have to acknowledge that, and especially coming from the background, we have similar backgrounds in that way. And I think that, being a part of a system where we don't see many people that look like us, even when we were in college, and to push past that voice in your head, like, what was that like for you? Because not only did you do the school thing, you're doing your own business. Now you got so many things you're venturing out on. And I know that idea, you think you're better than me. I was afraid to like put my picture on my practice at first, because I was like, I don't want people to think I'm better than them. Like, it was so crazy, like the way my mind was going. So tell people how you were able to get through that part.
Okay, so I think that the biggest thing that's helped me get through this is, first of all, what I do, it works, and it literally changes lives. And there's no denying it. There's no denying that I've been gifted something that other people, that has not been, it's not been presented, it's not out there. Okay, and it's for me. It's basically understanding my purpose is what helped me push past it. Understanding that this thing is bigger than little old me has been very helpful. Once I grew to understand that this thing it's not about me. It's not about me not wanting to be in front of people. It's not about me and what I think other people are going to think about me. It's about changing lives, which is important to me, because my history, for me, my healing comes by way of making sure that as many lives as I can impact and prevent them from experiencing as much pain as I have. That's how many, as many as I can reach, I want to touch. I want for kids to suffer less and get what they need sooner, not 5-10 years later. That's why I said that last girl was the last girl that was going to come to me and say,
oh, because of 10 years.
And so, but yeah, that's what is causing me to break out of it. Now, do I still have a hard time? Yes. Has everything cleared up for me and is life perfect? Heck no. I still, the same anxiety and depression that I dealt with when I was younger, it still exists in me internally, because my trauma does not go away simply because I'm doing things now, or simply because I now have money, or because I now have a different kind of lifestyle. That stuff lives in me. And that's one thing. And I find it to be my gift now, because I can work from that and I speak from that. And when I speak from that, there's power that comes from that, and there's change that comes from that. So
and with it living in us, right? So it's the difference with the way we operate now than in the past is that it doesn't control us.
Right.
So before, when Lafaya was talking about like wanting to do something bad just to get stuff out of her system, her trauma was literally in control. And I think like the idea of reconciling and really coming to terms and accepting, because it's a part of you. So you gotta, I feel like we're fragmented when we try to not acknowledge our pain and go. Remember I said, it feels like you just go. But I think just the difference now is that you feel like you're in control despite what has happened.
Yes, no, and see, here's the thing. I feel like I'm in control, and what's happened is a contributor to the power. So when I say, okay, so basically, if you've been through certain things, there's a certain amount of energy that your body's going to dedicate to that thing. And you can make a decision. So now this is me telling you now, you can make a decision to take that energy and do something positive with it. If you don't, then the default is going to be to do something negative with it.
I love that. I never heard it framed that way. That just gave me chills. I'm gonna have to make that a clip. That's really good. What she just said, and it's we can't run away from it when we're talking about the voices in our head or when we're talking about our trauma. Like, how do you run away from your own self? You can't. It's not possible.
And when you do, and if you try to, then you will stay miserable because you need you. We are the most important pieces of our lives. So we have to learn how to become accepting, very loving, and take good care of ourselves. This is why when I started, because I get all these kids coming in or people coming in, teenagers and young adults, right, complaining that they hate the way they're mistreated by other people. And then I asked them, I said, well, do you allow you to mistreat you? Because all this acting out behavior right here, is it getting you what you want? Because if it's not getting you what you want, it's getting you the opposite. You might as well start treating it like somebody else telling you to do something that's going to get you into trouble so you can handle that appropriately.
Yes.
Right? And so when you start doing that, then that's you starting to enter into self-care. I am important enough to not be mistreated, even by me.
Yes.
And especially by me, right?
Yeah. I see why people gravitate towards what you say, because you have a way of explaining things that clicks right away. It doesn't take, I can see it clicking where, we do the same thing, but the way you frame things, it's like, wow, that's deep and that's good. So I can see that.
Right. It's taking things. That's why I have such a hard time. So it's like, it's just common sense, guys. Come on. Because when I share things, it's not like it's brand new to people, right? It's just what I've learned though, is that it's penetrating. That the way that it's been given to me, even though they may have heard something like it before, it penetrates, which means they've never heard anything like it before, because what they heard before didn't have any breakthrough.
No, it didn't. You definitely have a gift. You definitely have a gift. I've heard a lot, but that energy, that's something I'm taking with me. I'm gonna quote him, like, that's the Lafaya way, baby. So tell people about your program, because we are in 2021. We are experiencing the pandemic. There's so much turmoil. You were working with kids even before the pandemic, so I can only imagine the amount of pain and stress that is happening. And I think, like, being able to have resources, especially for parents, to help them with their children. I was on a broadcast the other day, and I was saying how it's so important for us as parents to be open to the ideas of new opportunities or new ways of doing things, because maybe some of the ways that we have done things in the past may not work, but it can be hard, So tell me a little bit about your program and just kind of some like really concrete advice for parents that are going through it during this time.
Okay, so first and foremost, I think one of the main things that I want to tell parents out there is especially when you care, you're loving, you mean well, you're not missing it by a mile. If you have acting out happening in your household with your children, you're definitely not missing it by a mile. There's small steps that you need, small adjustments that you need to make. And when you make those, it will change your life. When I'm talking about the Lafaya way, I'm talking about the Lafaya way is not just I'm just throwing out this philosophy and yay, you can change by thinking about energy differently. No, I give you the how to. I give you tangible ability to make changes, shifts in how you relate to others. So this is not only going to change your life with your kids, it's going to change your life in your marriage, on your job. It's going to change your life, period, because this is an advanced relational philosophy, again, with 4 steps. You follow these 4 steps, it will be like it is when you take all the ingredients that you need to make a cake, those proper ingredients, and you stir those mugs up and you get a good cake coming out of that. That's what you get with the Lafaya way. We make the whole cake, and we make it a good cake, not a flat cake, not an ugly cake. Because what I do is I keep you from missing those key little elements, key little ingredients and pieces that sometimes we don't even think about. Okay, in order to now make this stuff work the right way or become something tasty.
See, that just penetrated me again, because I love that. Like, you're not missing it by a mile, and then you just used the cake example. I'm like, you can have all the ingredients, but if you miss the eggs, it ain't gonna come out right. So it's like, oh, I just gotta add the eggs. It like gives parents hope, where it's like, oh, okay, I'm not, because I think parents could feel so far off. You know what I mean? And to hear that, just to hear somebody say that to me, it's like, okay, I got this. So I love that. Go ahead. I love that.
And that's what the Lafaya way is all about. It's about restoration of hope, because that's what I would get is those war-ridden looking parents that come in. They look like they've really been through, like PTSD is real when you're dealing with a kid that's off the hook. Okay. And we come in there and they would have no hope, and well, nothing really works. And, and the psychiatrist said that maybe that you can help, that nothing else is working, that you can help. Because I have psychiatrists that just love me, because they're like, oh my goodness, we have these cases. Nothing's worked for them. We send them over to Lafaya, and there you go. Right. She's a miracle worker, but that's it. Restoration of hope. I'm lighting your pathway to the life that you want, to the relationships that you want, for what you want in your home. And, but now I have a few programs now. I've worked a curriculum out of my book series. So that part, first of all, didn't want to write books, right? But now I have my 3 books. I still have 4 more in my computer. I can't wait, because this is some juicy stuff. It gets deeper and deeper as we move on. But y'all can't handle all the deeper truth till you get to the other ones. And so, but I've created a 12-week curriculum that's based in the book series, and this is super powered. I call it the PEP program, Parents Empowering Parents. And why do I call it that? Because the Lafaya way is about taking your skills, what you're gifted at, and drawing that out of you, teaching you how to become true to who you really mean to be. The same way I had to get to who I truly meant to be. And so, it's so good. The first 6 weeks, I'm thinking I'm on week 9 with my first parent group. And at week 6, we started to see dramatic, but I'm talking about dramatic change. In week 1, we saw good change for certain people that were easy, but I'm talking about dramatic change in people, like some of the dads in the group that were a little bit aspy and all grumbly and stuff and cranky and not wanting to be there. They're starting to say, oh man, I tried the Power Talk formula, and first time ever, it just came to mind right away during a tough moment. And I was like, see, now that's what I'm talking about.
That's good.
This is becoming, now this is like, I'm really, truly teaching you how to live this thing. You're not just learning something else. You're going to live this. You're going to live and breathe this and change your life. So, but join our program. It's, oh my goodness. It's super powered. That's all I have to say. I'm excited.
Now, is it ongoing, or how does it work? If somebody's listening to this about the sign up, I know for people, LafayaWay.com, but tell people about the sign up process.
So my groups are small because I want to make sure that I'm very serious about people getting everything that they need out of it. Mm-hmm. So as I get participants or families, and I have couples come in together, when you pay once, it's just for your family or whatever. But I have you come in. It has to be up to 8 participants. When we get to 8, I start a new class. Oh, and that's pretty much, that's how it's been going. And it's been like I said, class 1, I'm super excited about. Class 2, I'm super excited about. I'm like, okay, so this stuff, it really literally works. I know it changes lives, but now am I going to be able to take it and present it in a way where that really does happen in the context of this group environment, as opposed to that traditional one-on-one that I've been doing.
Right. You're able to reach more people this way as well. And then I think that's the community piece of it, of like, I'm not alone in this. I know, like, logically we know we're not alone, but I think sometimes as parents it can feel that way.
Right. They feel isolated. They feel like the bad guy. They feel blamed. Their own egos are attacked. And they know, especially the parents out there that know that they're trying everything, trying hard. And even they tend toward feeling guilty and self-blaming. What am I missing? What's wrong with me? Why is my kid turning out like this? We take all that and quite honestly, like I said, I love talking about energy. The energy is going to be in you anyhow. We might as well learn how to shift it so that you're moving into a space where you're going to have positive growth instead of more guilt and more decline. Because guilt and decline come together.
Yeah. And it doesn't do anything. It makes you feel stuck. I always tell people we're never stuck. We feel stuck, but we're never stuck. And I think with the energy, being able to reframe it or channel it in a different direction, it can allow you to like do a little bit more and get from out of that stuck place that you're finding yourself feeling.
And people always say, well, gosh, it's so much. It just feels like so much work. I've already done so much work already. And I love to tell them, you're going to work anyway. It's the nature of life. So how about you learn how to work on your behalf instead of against you? Let's work on figuring out how to take that same energy that you're going to use anyway. And now we're going to start moving it in your favor.
Dang, you ain't never lied. That's so good. So it's like we have choices. Like, what are we going to choose? And then I think when people it's not that we don't know we have choices, but we don't think about it that deeply. Nope. And I think when you present it the way you present it, it makes you be like, you know what, let me just choose it this way. This just makes more sense. Like I'm more in control and it feels better. And I can live and I don't have to be in survival mode all the time.
Yeah. Man, when parents figure out that they can get to their end so much more quickly with a certain attitude, with certain words. Because I give the words, but I'm about internal change. Because when you're dealing with especially extremely sensitive children, adults, whomever, but what I call hypersensitive, that's social, emotional, behavioral kind of struggles, challenges. When you're dealing with people like that, they tend towards doing this thing that I call a high level of emotion soaking. Now I know everybody would know what that means just by hearing it. They're sponging in the feeling energies of other people at a strong level. So some people are like, I can't even get upset without them getting upset. Well, it's because they do a high level of emotion soaking. All human beings do it in some measure, just some a lot more, a little or a lot more than others, times 100, times 1,000, depending on their level of sensitivity. And kids with trauma backgrounds, kids with any disorder, ADHD, mood disorder, any of those are going to come to you hypersensitive. It cannot be helped. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so when there's a tendency to sponge off of that negative energy that's coming from others, then now you have to learn how to put yourself in check and do it intentionally. So what I do is I add now intentionality to what people are doing. And they're doing some of the same stuff they were doing before, with a couple of add-ons, because people need to make slight shifts in the way they're saying things, depending on what type of kid they're dealing with, right? If you're dealing with a self-absorbed kid, then you don't try to appeal to their empathy by way of telling them how they're impacting you. That's not how you get through to those who are absorbed in self. Okay. You apply to you actually cause them to get to the end. Okay, means to an end, to the empathetic action by way of making it about them. So you can say, hey, babe, when I call you to, come clean the dishes and, you can't get away from your game. Okay. It causes me to feel like the game is a distraction from you being able to take care of business, and then I'm feeling like I need to take it away. And I know that's not your intention. So if you could please just make sure that you're acknowledging that I'm calling you when I call you, then we won't be having a situation where you'll be unhappy because because I'm feeling like I have to pull the game away.
Dang,
so then you're having a whole different kind of, that's power talk formula. When it causes this thing that you don't like, and I know that's not your intention, let them save face because they're not doing anything intentionally to you. By the way, when you start thinking that way, by the way, you're not personalizing, then that decreases your level of upset, right? So please do it this new way that be good for you. Is how you language things to get better results.
Right? You could do that with kids, with your partner, like
exactly. Exactly.
That's why you said it could save the whole family dynamic.
Exactly. You could do that at work. You could do that.
Took me a long time to figure that out, Lafaya. Where were you when I needed you? Because I was struggling. You ain't never lied. It's all about the way you say it. Oh man, you're so good.
But let me break down. This is the power talk formula is connected to the Lafaya Way Core 4. Okay, that's what the Lafaya Way is all about. The Core 4. Everything that you hear me talk about, you'll be able to plug into the Core 4. Now, the Core 4, step 1 is to find your calm. Why? Because emotion soaking, that element, is going to prevent you from getting the results that you want, because if they're drawing from your negative energy, then they can't give you back anything positive, because that's now all of that's in the way. Now they can't get there. You can't expect for them to get there if you're not there. So they need to draw from your peace space. So find your calm is one. And I give techniques. I don't just tell you to do something. I was a hothead. I would still say I am a hothead. I understand how to control it and why it's important to do so, because I don't like playing myself. Okay. So that part. So find your calm. I teach how to do that. Understand let me preface first, because I like giving acronyms. It's my 4 core. I call them my FUR. My FUR. F-U-R, extend the R out, like fur with a Mexican R with a R or something. I don't know. Fur. Okay, boots with the fur. But anyway, F is find your calm. U is understand the real truth. When you understand the real truth, remember, this is like ingredients to a cake. They all work together. When you understand the real truth, you're going to be calmer. This kid not wanting to clean their room is not about how they don't care about all the wonderful stuff that you've done for them in their lives, and they don't, they don't consider you, or they don't respect you. It has nothing to do with any of that. When they don't clean their room, it's because they don't like cleaning their room. Understand the real truth. Okay. When you're having a bad day, when they're having a bad day, those check-ins that they give you, like through 12 steps program, that HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Do a self check-in. Is the amplification of your upset more to do with the fact that you didn't have lunch, that you were already tired, you had a bad day at work, or any of those other things, or kid was, how they're responding? Does that have to do with any of those things for them? So then you're taking the things that are happening, and you're not making it about that thing, that all the emotions are not about that one little surfacey thing that's happening right there. There are probably other things that are at play that if they weren't, you'd be getting a better reaction, or you'd be given a better reaction. So understand the real truth. There's more to it to as well. Respond in alignment. My first R, respond in alignment with your truest intentions. If you say you want peace in your house and you're yelling, you are working directly against yourself. Okay. Respond in alignment with your truest intentions. Okay. So when you hear yourself yelling, it'll happen because you get upset. We're human. Then you say to yourself, wait, that's not where I'm trying to go. I'm not trying to, because that doesn't promote peace. How do I get to peace? Right. When you're responding, and plus, that's one part. Second part, if you want to have a kid or spouse or whomever it is that has high self-esteem and confidence in the relationship with you, or relationship in general, okay, you can't talk down to them. That's not responding in alignment with truest intentions. You're working against your own desire to have them have high self-esteem. Okay, so then you learn techniques like that power talk formula. Hey, babe, instead of you suck, you're lazy, whatever these things that we say that these are mistakes that we're making. They're self-sabotaging mistakes, because we don't want our kids to think they suck. We don't want our kids to think they're lazy. We're not trying to feed the thing we don't want. We're trying to feed the things we do want. Hey, babe, I know that you're a beautiful, wonderful kid. But when you do this thing right here, it's not reflective of who you really are. Okay. And I know that's not your intention. So please do it this way so that we can get more of who you really are. You're feeding the thing you want more of, and you're starving the things you don't. Right. Mm-hmm. And then my final R, which is my 3 R's. I call it the 3 R's. That's why I say it's a long R. That's recognize the small steps. This is how you keep the longevity. Once you work in those other 3, longevity happens by way of recognizing the small step differences. So it doesn't matter how small that change is, that positive change is, because you want to feed the thing you want more of, you're going to learn how to highly reinforce second R. That recognize small step change. What does this do? This reestablishes hope for you and the person you're dealing with. So if you're seeing that small change, you're going to think, oh, okay, things are getting better. And if you're able to recognize and reinforce it, then the kids or whoever it is you're talking to is going to be like, oh, they recognize that I'm trying to do better. Mm-hmm. Recognize, reinforce, and my last R is repeat. That's like my stir. That's like you know that you're constantly moving through the 4 steps. It's not about you doing one at a time. It's you're in all 4 all the time. And that's the Lafaya way.
That's good. I love that so much. I can see your energy and your passion just by the way you talk about this. Like, it's like, for people that are listening to this on audio, her passion is like this is second nature for her. She eats, sleeps, and breathes it like it's nothing. Like
it's my life.
Yeah.
That's why it's the Lafaya when I have no shame in it anymore.
I love it. So now you really love your name.
Yes.
That's good. I love it so much. This was awesome. I think you're so amazing. I'm grateful that you took us on this journey because like just listening to the Lafaya way is great, but listening to it with your background, it hits differently. I don't know why. It's like, oh yeah, you're just a smart, because you could tell you're smart, but you're not just a smart girl. You're a smart girl with women with a history that, I just know it's going to help somebody have hope that, they can rewrite that story. And they can use the Lafaya way to do it.
Yeah, I did the Lafaya way, changed my daughter's life. So that's for another story for another time, because I know I've gone way over with you. But the Lafaya way is what took my daughter from could have been extreme struggles because of her inability to attach the way kids normally do and all of her sensory sensitivities, to now being a passer kid. A little bit awkward, but she's confident and she's happy and she's thriving.
Dang, that's dope. So for people that want to reach out to you, how could they do that?
Okay, guys, everything is Lafaya way. Like, I'm all about the branding now. So you go to LafayaWay.com. You can go to YouTube.com/LafayaWay. You can go to Facebook.com/LafayaWay. You can find Lafaya at Lafaya Way wherever you go. Oh, Instagram at Lafaya_way. So you can find Lafaya at Lafaya Way.
I love it. You're awesome. Your energy is great. You're an energy person. And one thing about we're on the computer, but I just feel your energy through the computer. It's just so uplifting. And you're clearly living out your purpose. And so thank you for being you. And I'm sure like a lot of people will be connecting with you, especially parents. I think that the school year is starting soon. And for some people listening during the school year, and I personally don't work with kids, and I have no desire to. I always say people that work with kids are very special people because it takes a lot, and we need you. So to hear somebody, just especially a woman of color, just talk so passionately about this and moderate to severe like issues, like that's the population you work with. I'm just grateful for you, because I know just from the different environments I've worked in, how much it's needed. And, I have hope. I just know like I'm not the person for the job, but I have hope that there is someone out there. And I just met that person today.
It's good to acknowledge your area. Like I have areas that are not mine. And I'm perfectly happy where, like I said, I will get bored quick. Some wild stuff. I'm like, I can't. I don't want to hear about your day. I don't. I need to build.
You want the moderate severe. You need that.
Let me fix some stuff. But yeah, you guys check it out. I know I didn't talk about everything as far as the program is concerned, but go to LafayaWay.com. Check out the PEP program. There's so many options that we'll pick an option for you. Call me if you need help with something. I give scholarships because I just want to change lives. So you guys just reach out and get the help that you need, and make sure you're getting the information that it's just gonna change your lives and the lives of your kids.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Yes, you're so awesome. This was fun.
Bye. Hold on.